Think they sign off on phase one in November at APEC? Is that what you're hearing from your sources here in Beijing?
I think the time is right, absolutely, because you see that China has just had the 70th years anniversary celebration, and then also the fourth plenum of the 19th Party Congress will be held this month, probably later this month. So, and also after 18, 19 months of seesaw negotiations, it's high time that people expecting to reach something. So I think this partial deal is really a great injection into the status of both China and U.S. I think both countries need that, and both the world need that. We had just the international, all those lending agency had this meeting in Washington, annual meetings, stir Orleans on the if there's no deal. I mean, if the Sino-U.S. trade war continues, the world will be dragged into recession. So that's not a small matter. It's for political leaders of both countries to be responsible for this world audience. So I think that is going to happen.
Now, we've discussed this before, but phase one is essentially the easy part of the deal. Agricultural purchases from China, holding off on additional tariffs from the U.S. The question is China going to give any ground in terms of its industrial policy and state subsidies in phases 2 and 3, the meatier part of the deal, as Wilbur Ross has described it?
I think, absolutely, we need to start somewhere. So in order to get this the downward, the spiral to go upward, I mean, we need really all the good stars. So I think the partial deal, the phase one, is absolutely crucial to really cultivate the good sentiment, good environment. And what's more, China is willing to reform. I mean, we have just the last 2 days, China had its first multinational leadership summit in Qingdao. Whereas I think the Minister of Commerce and also Vice Premier Han Zheng has greatly specified and stressed the importance of opening up continuously. And of course, also you see that...
and that includes state subsidies and includes the industrial policy. That's on the table.
It's all been discussed. I mean, China wants to reform. SOE reform is always a subject in China with some outside extermination. That'd be even better. I mean, that's not a problem. And also by January 1st, the implementation detail will be announced for the foreign investment law. It's just recently has been circulated now to get feedbacks of all the people. We actually, Center for China and Globalization, having an annual inbound and outbound meeting in Beijing on November 2nd and 3rd. And we actually seek a lot of comments from our multinational friends. Yes.
And Henry, it's Yvonne in Hong Kong. The latest that we got out of D.C. is Marco Rubio now, the senator. They're sparring with the likes of MSCI, saying that there's all these U.S. retirement dollars that are heading to Chinese companies. And he's trying to basically stop this flow of capital, which we've seen in other reports as well about the U.S. side wanting to restrict capital flows of Chinese companies as well. I'm just wondering, this trend of financial decoupling, does that force the Beijing to actually change their position in any way?
Well, I think there's always negative sentiment expressed by some officials at the U.S. government. I think that's natural. Some play good guy, some play bad guy. That's always seems to be the case in the Trump administration. But I think, in fact, all the financial industry and all the financial sector would not allow that to happen, because who can neglect the largest growing market of the world, the biggest middle class market in the world? So I don't think the U.S. company would willing to sacrifice for the government wishful thinking. But yes, there are some problems, there are some frictions. We need to address that. I think the best thing is for both government to correct those discrepancies and really make sure that both countries are really working together. So the U.S. financial sector will not, foregone this hugest market, and also Chinese will get investment from international fund managers. So I think that's really important, and so I think that during the negotiation you can hear anything, but I think it's serious enough. I think both countries are considering, and I think that let's hope for the best, because the international business community and the Chinese and the U.S. market, economic market, and the world market in general cannot really, survive another, bad news like this. We just see the market, recover a bit, and also confidence recovered. We are now in a very stable period. Everybody is really trying to hope for all the world is watching on this, and the APEC meeting in the mid-November is absolutely crucial to have a deal.